Hello and welcome. And this is a highly anticipated discussion that I'm really excited about having today. You know, every once in a while I get a little excited on my social media platforms and I start talking about, the youth baseball, travel baseball world. And today we are going to be able to talk to someone that's been in this space for 8 years as the Vice President of Scouting for Prep Baseball Report. Shooter Hunt, thank you, Shooter, for taking the time today to join me and accept the offer that I extended to kind of discuss all things related to the Prep Baseball Report.
Coach, thanks for having me on. Excited to be here and excited to talk baseball. That's what I do all the time anyway. I love it.
Well, one of the things that I'm really excited about, first of all, I want to give parents, athletes some perspective. You know, I think it's important. Shooter is not only a former college athlete, but a former college coach working at such prestigious academic institutions such as UVA and Tulane under Rick Jones, Jake Gautreaux, Jake the Rake. So there's some athletic skill sets here as a player, but also as a coach. So Shooter, talk a little bit about your career as a young student athlete and what led you to the Prep Baseball Report.
I think just being around the game, right? I come from a family of coaches. My dad was a coach. My grandfather was a coach. Saw so much baseball, went off and played, was lucky enough to go and play professionally, and then got back on the field coaching-wise there, as you talked about with Tulane, with the great coach Rick Jones, and then kind of connected with Sean Duncan, our president here at Prep Baseball, out on the road, just being around the game. Wasn't sure where my wife and I were going to settle, and the role that I'm in now kind of came open. The Prep Baseball is growing. Sean really found a liking to me, just right place, right time, right? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. I was there. I had watched how many thousands of innings of baseball games, and then kind of the Prep Baseball exploded. I came on board at the right time and really have lucked out. I'm grateful to Sean Duncan for the opportunity to be able to come here. But back to your question, like having played and coached, just being at the field is so important for baseball. And I think everybody's a scout in the long run, right? Everybody watches a game and critiques, right. and baseball is just kind of leads. It's historical like that, right? That water cooler talk and talk radio and whatnot, sports radio. So I love it.
So I think it would be safe to say, this is my opinion, but I put this out there. With regard to youth baseball, travel baseball, prep baseball has now become, the entity with regard to the high school aged player, the junior high, middle school, whatever we're calling it these days. Talk a little bit about the Prep Baseball Report's kind of overall mission statement is to create awareness for players all over the country. And one of the things that you do that separates prep baseball from others is you have baseball people in pretty much all states across the country or regions across the country that are able to evaluate each state or each region, that then provides a report and then helps players get in front of college coaches. Would that be accurate?
Absolutely. It's one of the things that we pride ourselves on, being hyper local. It's having that local access. And I'm lucky enough where I kind of stand above our scouting department, and I pride myself in the fact that in one phone call, I can know anything about amateur baseball more than any Major League Baseball organization. The fact that we're just so nitty gritty, we have so many boots on the ground integrated into our scouting system that we kind of know everything that's going on. And it's one call away. Hey, we'll find out about this. And to what you talked about, investing in people is so important in our space and especially in our company. And it's something that, again, Sean Duncan has really done a great job with. We have invested in technology, right? Trackman, blast motion, all these next wave things, which we've been kind of at the forefront of doing. But in the end, having good people who are baseball guys, who know what they're doing out there, can evaluate. We are scouting at our core, right? We do a great job with the media. We do a great job, tournaments, all these things. Hey, we are evaluators. We go out there to scout. And it's something that I know I can count on all these guys across the country to make me look good, right? Like, oh, shooter knows everything about. I don't know that much, but our guy in Virginia and New Jersey and California, like they know. So one call away, and I can pretend like I made up all this information. But that's what I think is so beneficial for parents, is that connection and having a network and somebody that can reach out for you and be a resource, especially for college coaches, right? Those guys are busy. Who do I need to go see? I only have so many days. Where do I go? They have to call somebody they rely on, because they can't afford to lose 3 days on the road to go see a kid who ends up being a mistake. So our credibility is ultimately king, and something that we really pride ourselves in and protect.
Well, one of the things I want to let parents know, speaking of technology, is I really encourage parents, athletes, take advantage of the Blue Book app. Download. It's a brand new version that just got updated, upgraded. There's team portal information. There's individual player portal information, connecting your socials, connecting your video, your prep baseball report. You can do all that. Prep baseball provides every athlete that attends their events an individual evaluation form, and you can download that obviously to your Blue Book profile. But parents, go ahead and do that when you have a chance. Make sure your student athlete has a profile on the Blue Book. Shooter, one of the things that I really want to dive into, and what kind of necessitated you and I having a discussion here today, is the metrics, the analytics, the technology, specifically with PBR's, I don't want to call it innovation, but new mantra with regard to the velocity boards or the metric boards, utilizing the Trackman, the blast motion. Talk a little bit about the value of that and why you as an entity decided to kind of put that out through the various social media platforms.
Well, I think early on it was, and again, it was a great expense, right? Like, you don't just dive into Trackman and they just give it away. But it was so important to us. Like, this is the next wave. Like, people want more metrics. It's no longer just hold up the radar gun and see what he's going. Hey, what's your exit velocity off the tee with the radar? Like, it just made no sense, right? It's almost seems ridiculous to us to see something like that now, because the college coaches, especially at Division I level, they have full analytics departments. They are running through, they're coming to our sites, they're separating, hey, in our ballpark, this metric plays, this launch angle, this bat speed, we know that we can get this better. From a pitching standpoint, what's the vertical approach angle? What are the spin rates? Where can we take them to induce vertical? We're looking for this type of backspin. There's so much more that goes into it. Yes, it's still really awesome to watch a game and see a guy throw 100 miles an hour, right? Versus 95. But I will say, like, when we started off, there's definitely like a learning curve, right? To get the mainstream on board. The guys behind the scenes, the sabermetrics guys, like, they understood, like, what's the plate height? What's the vertical approach? What's the induced vertical? They were locked into that. But there was a time not too long ago where nobody knew what spin rates were, right? Like, you would go on. Now it's like, if you don't have a spin rate, that's the only thing the kids are talking about. And honestly, the kids, they're smarter than me. Like, the kids who are going to pitching schools now, and I'm always a huge proponent of, like, the private lessons. Those guys in the private space who are given pitching lessons, like, they have so many reps and they have to be so on top of their game there that they're super knowledgeable. I picked their brains to get information for myself. And we at Prep Baseball thought, this is something we have to provide, because that's where we're headed, and we're going to have to push the space forward.
So you're a former pitcher, so I want everybody to know that. I mean, you are a former pitcher. You pitch professionally. You pitch collegiately. And I would love for you to talk about, is there a fine line as far as age is concerned with regard to chasing the velocity versus utilizing it as a measurement or a baseline to get better?
I think the radar gun, and especially we offline, we're talking about some youth stuff. And I think the radar gun, like, utilizing it as a teaching tool versus like a comparative tool is something that's really important. Right. Like, I actually had this discussion with a fellow first rounder years ago from New Jersey. And we we're talking about, like, how important it would be, like, on the if you knew what it felt like to throw each speed. Like, not so important to throw 100, But if I know what 85 feels like versus 91, and I can move that around, that might be a really important thing, right? Now I have like 4 different pitches, and this is getting super nitty gritty for us into pitching stuff.
Well, I think you're nailing that. I don't know if the pitcher you're alluding to is a Seton Hall prep guy, but the big thing to understand, though, and you nailed it. Again, we're talking pitching for parents. I get a lot of parents, Shooter, that want to talk velo. But I always ask, okay, does he throw a changeup? Does he know what the separation is? Is it an 8 to 10 mile an hour separation? Is it a 3 to 6 mile? In other words, there's big differences when we start to talk pitching for the college level pitcher. So are you going to be adding metrics, spin rate, separation from fastball to changeup or curveball to, I don't know what we call it today, sweeper, cutter? Are you going to be putting those types of metrics on for young pitchers or parents to understand?
Yes. And I think all that stuff, like the pitch development and things along those lines, I'm huge. I have 2 5-year-old boys, right? Getting them going to baseball. Like everything's about being athletic and movement patterns. That's all I care about. I don't even know how often I give them a real ball. Like, here's a tennis ball, go throw it against the wall as hard as you can.
Right.
Move your arm fast.
Right.
Like those are things that I believe in. Like, now I'm not naive. Like, there is a threshold for college coaches, right? In the recruiting space, I want to play at Vanderbilt, I want to play at Duke, wherever it may be. Like, there's going to be a threshold where, hey, we just don't know if you'll ever develop into our tight window. And I don't think a lot of people understand how tight the like collegiate window really is for a lot of kids. Vanderbilt, for the most part, you're churning out a kid in 3 years, right? The draft year. Hey, right. If you're not good in those 3 years, you did not help Coach Corbin out. Like, it doesn't help me for you to go to the Yankees and become a prospect. So like, they need to win right now. And it's different. Their development is almost a completely different sport from professional baseball. So like, the timelines are separate, which can be difficult for a parent to see.
So now, Shooter, you just went right into my sweet spot. There's this word that we all want to talk about, and the word is developmental, right? So college at the Division I level used to be, and you can speak to this as somebody that recruited and worked within a high-level program when you were there, such as Tulane and obviously UVA. But a lot of college coaches at the higher levels can no longer dream on the 18-year-old and who they can become as the 20-year-old. It's almost now the college coaches want the plug-and-play kind of people within that 3-year window. So when they come in and they're occupying a roster spot, which now at 34 potentially is a big deal. Can you talk about that and the role that PBR plays? Prep Baseball Report is essentially a scouting department, for lack of a better term, for the college coaches now. They can really take your data and kind of make an informed decision. I don't know how we want to classify that on the high school athlete and if they are going to be ready when the feet hit the ground to help their program.
And it's from our aspect. And I think in a perfect world, like I was brought up like this, right? Like, hey, if you're good enough, they'll find you. And I say this to parents all the time, like, that's just not how it is. There's a finite amount of time that these college coaches have. Right. And I think in the baseball world especially, just have like really good people, for the most part, non-self-promoters, right? Like I live out here in the Pacific Northwest, like awesome people, non-self-promoters. They go out there, let their skills do the work. But like, hey, it's hard for a coach who does not have a fully funded recruiting calendar. Like, they need to kind of pick and choose. And that's something that we look at for our site is like, hey, this coach who from this small school, how can we help them out better where they're not wasting their budget, and not so much wasting, but like, hey, we only have 4 days to go out, which I'm sure we'll talk about our futures games in a second here. But like, we can go to the website and know these are guys that we can kind of hit on. We know we've had success here. Here's his grades. Here are things from that standpoint. It's really tough to get recruited, especially you talk about the 34-man roster. schools are still developing. And I actually wrote an article on new age recruiting, some stuff, the direction we're going in. You still do need to have some freshmen come in. You look back, Dylan Cruz, LSU, that's a freshman on up. That's a guy you build on. Yes, they've had like Paul Skeens come in, but Trey Morgan, huge piece for them. A lot of freshmen have helped out. You still got to have those. And then you're kind of tinkering in with some other guys. Rick Pitino just talked about it at St. John's.
Right.
It was blunt. Now, basketball is different. Like, there's only 12 guys, 15 guys in the roster.
Not so much, though. So if you're talking about like a rotation, like a Paul Skeens, okay, I can't plug in a 19-year-old and hope. I need somebody that can replace A, innings, and B, production for Paul Skeens. That's a tough thing to do at a school like an LSU.
I don't know if anybody's going to replace Paul Skeens' production ever.
Right.
But no, you're talking like, and it's so important. Like, playing is really important. I kind of talk to kids now, right? Like, I want to go to LSU. I want to go to Stanford, wherever it may be. Like, that 34-man roster is going to put a crunch. Now, they're still going to recruit those guys, but you can't kind of big league the other lower level schools.
Right.
Right? Like, hey, it's going to be tough. Now, they're going to find not everybody's just going to go portal heavy, because you still got to build a culture. And any school, big school, I'm sure Coach Corbin will come on here. We're building a culture, right? Vanderbilt has a culture. So, like, they're going to get guys in as freshmen and bring them up. But in the past, where you brought in like 18, and one of the things I always talk about is quantity has a quality unto its own. In the past, you could bring in quantity, and you could try to figure out, okay, we had 20 commits in this high school class. We hit on 3 big ones. Cool. Can't afford to make those mistakes. So it's going to be a little bit of a slower process now. And in the end, you don't want to kind of dismiss those coaches who are talking to you. I'm better than that school. Like, you're not better than anybody. I don't know. That's not how you should live your life, I guess, from my standpoint. But like,
I agree. So the bigger part that you just touched on there that I want to kind of expand on is parents are always asking, okay, now that these high school recruiting classes are smaller, and they will be from this point forward, and that's just not at Division I, that's across all of baseball. Let's talk about the role of PBR and when it begins. So you have to get, before we go down the PBR Futures, I really want to talk about from a state or regional level, these smaller events that take place throughout the year, and I'd love for you to kind of give us some time parameters, are critical when it comes to not only talent evaluation, but kind of that developmental piece where you can kind of go to these younger guys. We're so programmed as parents to think, okay, my son's a high school freshman. He's going to be late if he doesn't get recruited as an 8th grader, 9th grader, or a sophomore. But in reality, those days are kind of behind us. But PBR can help you. Are you trending in the right direction? How are your skill sets measuring up against others within your region or across the country? Talk about the role of Prep Baseball Report with regard to, okay, now you're an 8th or 9th grader. How do you begin to create your profile on Prep Baseball Report?
It's funny you talk about that. And as a parent now, I can understand, like, you just want to do what's best for your kid. And you don't want to screw them up. You don't want to be late. Like, so like, good for parents who are like looking for something like that. I think we're going to start diving like more and more probably into the youth tournament space. It's just continuously like, hey, what else? How do people want it? So like, but from the recruiting standpoint, I think once you get into high school, and you talked about the development aspect, is something in talking with these college coaches that they're looking at, right? Like, oh, you came to an event as a freshman. Here's what the metrics were. Sophomore year, we're seeing an upward trend, because ultimately those college coaches, again, that finite 4-ish years on campus, they want to know that, like, hey, what are we going to get? What am I dreaming on where this guy can go? You've been in New England for forever. Like, those guys are late bloomers. How do I know what a New England kid looks like? Well, this is where Liam Doyle was as a freshman in New Hampshire. Wow, that arm really works. Look at the metrics on the fastball. No, it's not saying 95, but like, we kind of know where he's going. Look at the athletic metrics that we have, the jump metrics, whatever that may be. I think that standpoint is important. And then again, I'm huge into the bell curve, right? The technology, but also the in-person scouting is is huge. I'm not going to ignore the technology. I'm not going to make it finite what I see in person. I make mistakes. The technology's got my back and almost sets the floor for a kid. I think having that network of prep baseball, again, the hyper local scouting directors, the boots on the ground, it's important to get in front of them because, again, those college coaches are calling nonstop. Whether it's your travel ball coach, your high school coach, your lessons guy, your pitching coach, but especially the prep baseball guys. Hey, what did you have? Our guys right now are getting nonstop calls. Because March 1, those guys could get back on the road. Where am I going this Monday? Where am I going next Monday? Who's starting now? Who do I need to see prior to the summer to kind of get a leg up? So that's really important. But I think getting in the door as a freshman, and the more and more coaches I always talk to, beyond just our stuff and events, getting better as a baseball player is important. Whether you commit when you're a freshman in high school or after your senior year, all of that's predicated on your upside, right? That you will get to that level at some point. So you always have to be getting better, which is important. This 15-year-old cannot play in the SEC right now, but that 19-year-old is something that we're hoping can make that jump. So I think just getting on radars for us at our ID events where, hey, our scouting director can get there. That gets passed up to me from a national standpoint to talk about. Or even, hey, freshman year, this guy keeps getting better. Hey, now Jared Carrier in New York knows when he calls up a Delphi really good Division II program, hey, this kid's a good player. You might want to go check him out because he's made that jump. I think there's a little more in there and, he can really spin it. Or we know throughout the spring, he was dominant. He struck out more than a guy in inning in the Catholic League, whatever it may be. Those are those little stories that are helpful when our guy knows, yeah, we saw him at this event and it helps carry. So it's always good to have people in your corner, but those are kind of a long-winded answer of like, hey, freshman year through senior year, those are kind of processes that you're going on to help you develop and to get on people's radar.
Shooter brings up a tremendous point, boots on the ground. And I always try to, especially parents and athletes, one of the dynamics of the Blue Book app is we now have the ability to have endorsements. So you can, have a local coach, whether it's a travel coach, an instructor, or obviously your high school coach, endorse an athlete. Because I would love for you, Shooter, to kind of take a little bit deeper dive. Your territory directors at Prep Baseball Report, they're communicating with high school coaches. They're communicating with the instructors that are doing the lessons. They're communicating with travel coaches. But it goes not so much just strictly to talent evaluation, but character and what composure and what type of a person that is. And can you talk a little bit about how that plays into your role when you're beginning to invite the athletes to your national or regional events? The communication with the high school coaches and the instructors plays a vital role with regard to sealing, evaluation, and hopefully, with regard to college recruiting.
Without a doubt. And right before we got on here, we were talking about I love our preseason events. The winter event, you come out of that off season, these advancements are going. I'm thinking of New England right now. Right. I love to see where this guy goes from November to February. I mean, you could talk to Cressy. What's the best throwing program is puberty, right? You just got to get bigger and stronger. Guess what? It happens. And especially with the ages that we're looking at. But those preseason events, you show off the ability to make those jumps. Hey, this is a guy I need to see. And selfishly from our scouting directors and those boots on the ground, I mean, shoot, I'm looking at Oregon starts next week, their high school. Hey, these are the games I'm going to. Oh, I just saw that kid. He's a good player. That's an arm I need to see. There are a couple of left-handers up in the state of Washington in the 2027 class. This is a guy that I'm profiling that I need to go see him this spring. I am mapping out my schedule to go see that guy. And then talking to the high school coach, throughout that season, right? We've seen what he did, the metrics. That's awesome. Now the lights come on. High school baseball is tough. The opposing teams talk a lot of smack. You go out to a game, I was prepared for Tulane and professional baseball because when I was in North Jersey, they said whatever they wanted in the other dugout. And you just dealt with it, and it prepped me up. And I love going to those games because I know when I go see Jesuit Portland, and first rounders, Noble Meyer and Mick Abel, when they're going against Sunset or Central Catholic, the kids in the stands on the other team do not care that they're first rounders.
Right.
And you will see them in a great spot. So like you can step in there, but like I love seeing the high school season because then I know like this kid's tough. When he gets into a game and he just walked 2 guys and they're screaming overrated, he stepped up and responded to that, you know?
So you know, as a former first rounder, I know that you've lived it. You know, Tyler went through that when he was in high school, which really leads now to my main point. And this is really for parents and athletes. You know, PBR really understands that everybody wants to get to Lake Point at the end of July. And if we're all being candid and honest with each other, college baseball recruiting from end of May, early June, really the first week in June, through that mid portion of the All-Star game, Major League All-Star game. A lot of college summer leagues are being scouted, advanced scouted. A lot of college coaches spending time at the Cape Cod League, New England Collegiate, Northwoods League, etc. But the big boy event for high school athletes is the PBR Futures Event. So I would love for you to talk about, you know, the interactions that you have or all of the directors have with the college coaches, A, leading up to that event, but B, those 3 or 4 days in Lake Point, Georgia, have really become the big boy event of the year every year now. Talk about the excitement leading up to the underclass as well as the upperclassmen event and what PBR Futures has become to PBR Prep Baseball Report.
And thank you for the kind words on that. We take a lot of pride in that, right? Like, hey, this is a great opportunity. And it's almost become, I know we've been ABCA, they do such a great job. The college coaching conference is there. You have 400 college coaches there. Right. Sometimes 4, and now there's no real rules on the amount of coaches that come. There's head coaches. They're all getting there because you kind of, one, got to show face, but also like it's a buffet of all these guys are uncommitted. You're a day away from being able to call them. So you're kind of getting your eyes on them. But then you talk about the boots on the ground. There's been some vetting. And because the events continue to grow and get bigger and to the new recruiting rules, we added kind of that uncommitted senior spot because, hey, we want to help these guys out too. Those coaches are all coming down. There's some need for them. They may have missed these guys from these smaller areas, but it's a great time to bring them all together. Continuing to grow, it has been really important, which has also led to like our state games, which are incredible events that they have blown up, right? It's not just Lake Point. Yes, there's going to be 25 guys on each team. They're going to be really highly recruited. Coaches get a chance to see them. But those coaches are looking for market inefficiencies to a point where like, hey, I'm going to go to the Illinois State games after this because there's some guys that didn't even make the future games now that are really good. And Pennsylvania, I'll be up at the Pennsylvania State games in June, where I'm sure a lot of the future games players will come from that. But there'll be guys who don't make the future games team where I have them circle like, that guy's a dude. There's just not enough space for them. But it is a marquee event. The college coaches and to the recruiting window, we can talk about that too. A lot of what's happened is like the season ends, they got to defend the portal right away. It's the you have to kind of protect it. You're given visits on campus. You're trying to identify who's in the portal, right? You're trying to get ahead of, hey, is this guy going in? Because we have to be ready for this. The poor coaches in Omaha who now have to deal with that, which is an abomination in itself. It's just, right. You should be celebrating the fact that you guys won, not making calls to get your next year guys, you know? But from there, hey, they're at the events. I go down our National Program Invitational at Lake Point. NPI is my favorite tournament of the summer, right? At 3 levels, you will have college coaches there. They're watching the high school guys while on the call with a lot of portal players. But I think, yes, some of the bigger schools may not be locked in completely there because of the portal. But those smaller schools, again, that market inefficiency, that's a chance for them to get ahead. I want to get as many looks at this guy as I can because on August 1st, I want to be ready to go with this call. And then that leads into those guys are going to work their tail off because, hey, not everybody's LSU and Texas and Florida and Mississippi. Like those guys are going to be working. There are certain mid-level schools. I think like Billy O'Connor at Xavier does such a great job. He's out there doing everything at one time, looking at those guys, evaluating at a high level throughout the summer, so that on August 1st, and to you recruits out there, like, you may not get an offer on August 1st, but like they want to make that contact. And it really has become a different level of recruiting, and even closer to the football side of things. Right? It's slowed down to where, hey, now we're getting more looks. This is our shortstop. I need to be talking to 6 other shortstops. Once shortstop 1 says yes, shortstop 2, hey, that school may just evaporate. It's no longer I can bring in 50 guys in this recruiting class. Kids kind of know, like, hey, we're limited to this amount. They committed that guy. I need to move on. And I think that's where the good coaches are kind of offering things like that, right? If I'm at a mid-major or a low major, hey, you have playing time here right away. And again, the coaches don't envy it. Like, it's not something they're pumped up about, that they have to deal with the portal and re-recruiting guys. They just want to go out there and evaluate, have a good team, but ultimately get to Omaha and win.
Well, I think it's really important now for parents to understand the vital role that an entity like Prep Baseball Report plays. Is they're gathering reconnaissance evaluations independently. You know, it's almost like the old Major League Scouting Bureau, which represented all of 30, major league teams or at one time, but that's been done away with. But my point is the old Scouting Bureau would be independently evaluating athletes, submitting reports that teams would have access to. Now, Prep Baseball Report is doing that with local directors in the state and in the regions, and those reports are kind of getting submitted, and college coaches are going through those reports. And so I would ask you, as the director of scouting, how do parents initiate contact with the local directors in each state or in each region? And more importantly, at what age should those parents begin their process with Prep Baseball Report? Well,
I think you talked about the futures or future games, which are great. We also have our junior future games, which kind of, and I've seen it in the past, like once you get to 14, right, that 8th grade, the graduation in the 9th grade becomes it's like a different level. Like it becomes more focused on that college level versus the rah-rah chance in the dugout type deal. But our junior future games is really fun. In the past, like kids were getting scouted out of there. We had committed kids in 8th grade in the past. That's no longer for the vast majority. But the college coaches are kind of sifting over there, right? You're protecting your turf, whether it's Tennessee or Louisiana, whichever state we have. It's a group of 7th and 8th graders, kind of more of an introduction of, hey, this is what we do. No, this isn't the recruiting side of things, but this is a really great event that our state directors, you do kind of get on a radar there, right? They see a 14-year-old, like, this kid's going to be pretty good. We'll probably play varsity next year. Let's circle him as a guy. We've added our super sophomore games where essentially freshmen going into their sophomore summer. These are like those top dudes, almost like a future games, which is more regionalized. Last year, we had a good one at the University of Indiana, where I think we were at Wake Forest and High Point, kind of regionalized from that standpoint. University of Miami for some Florida stuff. There'll be some more coming out if you stay tuned. I don't think all of them have been announced yet, but some cool spots from that standpoint. And again, it's kind of getting on the radar and having people in your corner. Right? We have the development side where as a freshman, you step in the door for your first showcase event. Hey, this is my Trackman data. This is where I was. College coaches are circling those names. No, they're not recruiting freshmen in high school, but everyone I've talked to has said, we know names. We're not, those guys are hitting the ground running. It's not August 1st and all of a sudden I have no idea. They don't come to the future games and not have any clue who the top guys are. They have names circled. They have wonderful lists. That is their job. So like they get a lot of those names from us.
I want parents to understand, it's really imperative for you to understand, it's not just a Division I recruiting landscape. I can tell you story after story. We've talked to coaches, Timmy Mayo at Nichols College. We've talked to JUCO coaches. We talked to Chris Shank at Southern New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. Coaches across the country they're not recruiting based on their division. They're recruiting talented athletes. They're recruiting all athletes that have elite ability. They are not just saying, oh, we're Division II, this guy's too good. This is now a whole different world. Athletes are coming from the portal. They're coming from junior college, obviously high school recruiting. And this is where the Prep Baseball Report is allowing families and obviously student athletes to get that initial evaluation and to build and to grow and to stay on top of the college recruiting process, regardless of level or division. Because I can assure you, the Blinn, the San Jacinto, Chipola, LSU Eunice, these types of programs are getting elite athletes, but they're getting access to those athletes from directors across the country from Prep Baseball Report.
Yeah, and staying on Iowa Western, throughout the Midwest, Parkland, Wabash, there's so many good schools out there. I'm always a proponent, like, hey, just go play baseball. My best friends all play Division III baseball, and they had a great time. When I talk to kids, like, it's not D1 or bust. Like, sometimes to go to D1, yeah, I went to D1, but for 4 years you guys lost. They got your butts kicked every day. That's not as fun as being at Johns Hopkins and winning a national title, or going to Linfield and winning a national title at the Division III level. Like, there's good baseball there. And like you talked about the portal, you're seeing guys transfer, hey, for their grad year, they're going to Texas A&M or Duke, or there's good baseball players there, and they got 600 at bats, or they got 300 innings, whatever it may be. But it's something from our standpoint, because that hyper local access, providing those events, those state games, which are incredible events. It's something that we've really developed well, where coaches can come in. I'm thinking like the state of New York, which has all these great SUNY schools, and then great Division I schools from all over pockets. Hey, if we bring all these kids together, and Dan Savit's done such a great job, Jared Carrier, bringing the kids together from different regions, one spot, one stop. It's not just Binghamton. It's not just St. John's, the Division I schools, not just Fordham, but it's SUNY Cortland, who's an outstanding program. They're coming in to watch these guys. There's players at all level. And ultimately, we're baseball fans, right? Like, we just want what's best for this kid. He's here. And to go off on a bigger tangent, I always have this, like, I was blessed to play Division I baseball. Great program, right? Tulane, awesome stuff. Coach Jones, we took nice buses. We got lunches handed to us when we got on board. We stayed at nice hotels. We had great uniforms. I played in the Cape Cod League, went all over the place. It was easy for me to like baseball, right? Like, I was good at it. How easy is that? What I love is, like, a kid, you're not a superstar. You're not the dude. This kid's catching every bullpen. He's grinding there. Like, maybe he's going to play NAIA. Maybe he's going to play D3. But he's a worker. Those are the guys who really love baseball. It was easy for me. I was good at it. It's a kid like, hey, he's not good, but he still comes out every day. This kid's going to a D3 school, and he might get 10 at bats this year. That's pretty. He's going to, you talk about Southern New Hampshire. He had to grind out January and February practices to travel and not play. Right. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's especially like in the Northeast 10, you're talking Assumption, New Haven. Oh, yeah. You Franklin Pierce, where Jay King was for many decades. You have to have a passion and a foundation of love for the sport of baseball, because for every kid that is an elite shortstop or Friday night starter, there's a bullpen catcher, there's a backup infielder, and you got to live it every single day. You have to perform every single day, practice, etc. And that is really what I try to encourage parents to understand. Without the foundation of the love and respect for the sport in the game of baseball, college baseball is a privilege, and it is something where it's your last foray into a team sport, and the bond that comes from bus rides and trips down south, it lasts forever. And that really begins when you are a freshman in high school and begin to have that understanding of we versus me. So, Shooter, I would love for you to tell parents the social media access, what's the handles, who do they need to follow, how do they find their local state director, how do parents find Prep Baseball Report in their local community?
Check out Twitter. I do a lot on Twitter. It's at Shooter Hunt on Twitter. For the most part, our states are at Prep Baseball _ and then the state abbreviation, whether it's New England, I think is NE. I'd have to go through New York, NY, checking those out. But prepbaseball.com is an invaluable resource, especially from the recruiting standpoint. The amount of college coaches that go on there, they're checking metrics. They're taking especially our charts and just finding, hey, these are names. Let me circle into this. Let me look into this kid's profile. Look at that video. Oh, he just had an event. Look at that bullpen. Look at that swing. He's changed. He's made all these advancements. Instagram at Prep Baseball, the YouTube channel Prep Baseball, tons of great stuff. I've been doing a recruiting essentials series with college coaches, asking them, like, what do you look for? What kind of advice would you give to a parent? What kind of questions should they be saying on a visit? Should they be asking you, is my kid going to play? Like, kind of the things that I think are pertinent and not super wishy-washy. Like, hey, what do you want to see? Yeah, we want a kid who's going to play hard and be buttoned up. Like, sometimes you want a kid with a little stuff in his neck. You want a kid with a chip on his shoulder. And that's what I found out talking to these college coaches. So the recruiting essential stuff on there, and all of our state directors do a great job interviewing college coaches. So if you get a chance to check that out, I know you do a great job, Coach. And from that standpoint, it's really important to get out there, get on a radar so you can have somebody in your corner to really promote, because college coaches want things to be made easy for them. Right? The easier it's made, put it right in front of their face. I can't tell you how beneficial it is. Don't give them too much credit. They want stuff done easy for them. So that's kind of my spiel. But Twitter at Shooter Hunt, that's a lot of stuff that I'm churning out there. Anything good that's good for baseball, I'm in on.
Well, I'm going to let parents and athletes know everything for Shooter, everything for PBR is going to be in our description, both on the podcast as well as our social media platforms and obviously YouTube. Shooter, I want to say thank you very much for taking the time to join me. I know this is an incredibly busy time. Look forward to our paths crossing throughout the calendar year, hopefully down at Lake Point in July.
Can't wait, Coach. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure. Hopefully I'll get on again.
Absolute pleasure, and I really had a great time talking with you. Shooter, thank you very much.